This is a film study video on Byron Murphy, the Seattle Seahawks 23-year-old defensive tackle, nose tackle, hybrid, whatever Mike McDonald and Aiden Durde want him to be on a particular snap, how he was able to have more impact and production in 2025. I will be upfront with you. There's going to be more focus, more plays shown talking about his pass rush utilization, how he gets things done. Very technical guy, if you ask me, with great awareness and understanding of the scheme that Seattle uses. And the reason why there's going to be more focus on pass rush is because I'm in the middle of what I would consider to be an investigation attempt at my own understanding of the way Seattle uses what I'm going to characterize as a layered four-man rush. And so this first play is going to be an opportunity to talk about that. It's against the Steelers in week 2. It's another designed rush, if you ask me, where you've got a hard-coded outside rush from one side, Boye Mafe to the inside. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the play. Byron Murphy is generally going to be spot shadowed and or have his name and jersey number illustrated above him. So I think this is a one-way go for Byron Murphy. And he's matched up against the guard for the Steelers, who has since left Pittsburgh, and a lot of people have an extremely high opinion of him. I think he's a good player, but I think Byron Murphy has an advantage over him. In any case, the left guard gets a really quick jump here, and Murphy, to me, has a hard-coded inside rush. I think the first layer of this, the first attack wave, if you will, is DeMarcus Lawrence and then Byron Murphy. I think they've been given the green light go, if you will. The second part of this is Leonard Williams, who got chipped initially by the tight end off the left side, Freiermuth, which helps out the left tackle. And you can see how quick the left guard's get off, or his set was, compared to the left tackle. I mean, the left guard, 73, his left foot has touched the ground twice, and 77 is still getting set. That's because 77 knew he had help to the outside. But in any case, Murphy jumped to the inside. Mafe is like the spy. He would be what I would consider the third layer, or the third part of this design. It's repeatable. It's something that Seattle uses often, and it's interchangeable. Sometimes this guy's Byron Murphy, and you'll see that during the course of this video. In any case, Murphy's got his cleats in the ground, or he's getting his cleats in the ground on his left foot. He's going to turn the corner back to the quarterback and finish this play. He's someone who is some guys are explosive in the first 1.7 to 2 seconds of the play, but they don't retain that explosiveness in the 5th second or the 6th second, if you will. Byron Murphy, I think he's like, to use a combat sports analogy, he's got knockout power in the first round, the explosiveness early in the snap, but he's also got knockout power into the 6th, 7th, and the 8th. Along with that explosiveness and power and just raw strength, he's got, I think, instantaneous reaction and recognition. There's going to be a very, I think, unique blocking scheme here by the Jags. This is what I consider to be a sackathon. I think Seattle had 7 sacks in this game, and Byron Murphy was a part of 3 of them. He only technically ends up with 2 sacks. I think he had 1 complete sack and then 2 split sacks. This is a 1st and 10, so it's a run-pass scenario. The tight end, who's off our left side of the screen, he's going to release and run a route. And so Nickaman Wari and or DeMarcus Lawrence, reading that guy's release, it's a run pass down, right? It could be a run play on 1st and 10, could be a pass play. So we're not going to get a layered 4-man rush like I'm talking about on these obvious passing plays. Here, the center is going to step down or block back on Byron Murphy. And I think Murphy sees it, right? And his rush becomes a bull rush. So he's going to try to compress the inside gap, basically run that center back, but also not allow that center to expand him. This could be a run play, right? That's the whole idea, with the guard pulling here and the running back crossing face. You got 2 guys blocking on the edge, the left guard and the running back. They're going to deal with DeMarcus Lawrence. Byron Murphy in the middle of the play, or early in the play, knows that this is possibly a run play, and so his reaction is to try to drive that center back and make sure he doesn't get expanded, make sure there's no cutback lane if it is, in fact, a give to the running back. It's not, and what I really like about this is he's very technical. Watch the hand battle that occurs during the course of this. I'll try to slow this down some. So Murphy initially off the snap, let's focus on his inside arm for a moment, his left arm. It's on the outside, it's on the outside frame of the body of the center who stepped to him. And then he's going to attempt to readjust it right here to try to break the grip of the center, and then realizes that he's not getting that done, so he uses a different technique. I would say a second counter, if you will, in the middle of the play. He's got, great hand strength, great technique, a great lower body strength, great technique in his hands. And he's really good at redirecting, tracking the quarterback with his eyes and everything. But what I really love about this play, and one other that I did during the course of this film study video, is the ability to adjust his hand or his attempt to clear the center's hand once. Okay, that didn't work. A second time, twice. Let me just shrug him off and then reorient back to the quarterback. I think it's one of a number of split sacks during that game. I know I restarted or rewound the play a lot. I feel like I'm learning about football just watching Seattle's defense, and that to me is what makes it a whole lot of fun, as well as trying to just relay to you guys the things that I think I'm noticing. Byron Murphy to me is a perfect example of why Seattle's defense was so great in 2025. Extremely talented, gifted, strong, don't get me wrong, but very technical with his hands, well trained, and on top of all that, elite recognition and responses. If you're one of those people who thinks that I'm going too far and being too effusive in my praise for a guy who only got 7 sacks, just tune out of the video now because I'm not going to stop. I really like the way that Byron Murphy plays, but I like the way that he's deployed. Sometimes him and Leonard Williams are interchangeable, but they're different body size, different age, and different experience. But you get another example here, I think, of how Seattle likes to attack people in the pass game. I think this is the very next play. I may be wrong, but I do know that it is a 2nd and 10. It's in the third quarter. Seattle's already up 20-0. So here's an opportunity to talk about this layering of the pass rush. Classic, if you ask me. DeMarcus Lawrence is over here, and once again, he's got a hard-coded outside rush. I would say he's attack layer number 1. Murphy is going to go up through the B gap. Additional attack layer 1. And then layer 2, if you ask me, is Nwosu off the right side, cutting underneath. Essentially, you're talking about a stunt, a TE stunt between the defensive tackle Murphy and the D end Nwosu. There's really great timing on the rush here by Nwosu and Murphy. Murphy is instant upfield rush, attack, and try to use his hands to win. He doesn't blow out the guard, don't get me wrong, as far as the initial engagement, but he's trying to get upfield so Nwosu at a particular width. This doesn't work if Nwosu's feet are here too close, because then the tackle understands what's happening. The timing differential is what I think is extremely important with Seattle's rushes, because the tackle doesn't know that it's a switch rush, that Nwosu is under here until it's too late. And what I mean by that is Murphy's already through. Murphy has already gained inside position on the tackle at the time that there is recognition for the tackle that he needs to peel off or let Nwosu go. Hopefully explaining that all in a way that makes sense. The other part of this that I think is important, Leonard Williams is occupying the center. So the center can't help here. It's a 2-on-2 over there. I know the running back lined up to that side, and the running back theoretically could help out in that regard. I have noticed a pattern with Seattle where these kind of TE stunts, the tackle first and then the end underneath, they oftentimes occur to the side of the running back. It's like they understand, they being Seattle, understand what the running back is probably going to do as far as release to the outside. So the running back would help with a chip on the outside type of rush, or a topside speed rush, if you will. But that's not what they're doing. They're reading it. They're assigned to go underneath, so they don't need to read it in terms of the running back's release. It's a great job, if you ask me, of attacking the specific running back release and protection that the team uses. Mike McDonald is an expert at this. I know that Aiden Durday is involved, and Leslie Frazier, who's a genius, is probably involved to some extent as well with his vast amount of experience. But this to me shows up more in Seattle Seahawks film than any other team I get to watch. And really, I'm focused on the Ravens, the Lions, and the Seahawks. So the comparisons, for last season, probably aren't great because Seattle was on a totally different level than the rest of the NFL, except for the Texans, but especially, different quality of defense than the Ravens and the Lions offered. Just to talk about Murphy's versatility within the scheme here, he actually doesn't win, but he's not supposed to on this particular play, to be honest with you. This is obviously from the Super Bowl win against the Patriots. I actually talked about this play in a separate video that I put out earlier this week. There were some people who thought that there was no coverage switch happening here, or I guess no attempts at obfuscation. maybe I'm too patient in my responses to comments with people who obviously don't know football. In any case, Ernest Jones IV is lined up on the line of scrimmage. May is pointing directly at Jones, and Jones happens to be the only guy who doesn't rush. He could just be IDing Jones as the Mike, but I mean, Jones, everyone knows that he's the Mike linebacker, so it's kind of silly. But in any case, May was pointing at him, and Jones ends up being, the only guy who doesn't rush. The green light guys here, if you ask me, is Lawrence off the left side of our screen. It's Josh Jobe tracking Stephon Diggs all the way across the field. And then you guys lose perspective of him or lose sight of him in a moment here. But that's Julian Love giving a little bit of a coverage change. It could just be a conversion coverage. And it's so silly, like at least two of the comments at the first time I broke this down were like, I don't think the coverage changed. Like people call coverage with no motion and then with motion. So it could be like man if there was no motion, and then you just switch to a particular zone if there is motion. That's been around like forever. But in any case, green light, go. Green light, go. It's really the same rush for Leonard Williams through that B gap, and then the tackle, or the DN, stunt underneath. So a TE stunt, if you ask me. Derek Hall would be what I would consider like a green light slow. Not green light go, green light slow. And then Murphy's not part of the design here as far as getting a quarterback pressure. It's not intended for Murphy to win immediately here. It's one of the reasons why I hate pass rush win rate and the constant discussion of it. Now, Grant, I recognize there'll be some people who will say, well, the people evaluating pass rush win rate, they would take into account the design of the scheme. Prove it that they do, because most of the people who quote the metrics in this day and age for football and baseball, by the way, they don't ever show you the actual work that they've done. They just show you the fucking numbers. And so if you expect me to believe the numbers that are out there as far as pass rush win rate, this is not designed for Murphy to win here. This is designed for him to be what I would consider to be yellow light go or yellow light slow. So we got two green light goes, Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence. We got a green light slow, Derek Hall stunting underneath, and he, of course, forces the fumble on Drake May. The third layer of that rush plan, and I maybe need to come up with better terms or phrases for it, the third layer of that rush plan is Byron Murphy. He's not trying to win off the jump or off the snap here in his initial engagement in the same manner that Lawrence and Williams are, in my opinion, and that's why I don't rely on those metrics at all. I recognize that other people who don't have the football experience that I do, would look at those things quicker and sooner and try to rely on them. I don't. It's a limiting factor of my own analysis, to be honest with you, because I can only watch so much film, right? I can't watch every game across the entire NFL. What I can tell you is this. That's a very unselfish group of guys on the defensive side, particularly the defensive linemen. They're each capable of their own individual wins, right? Not just these guys, Jerron Reed as well, Uchenna Nwosu, who's not on the field, Boye Mafe, who's, of course, since left Seattle. And I would tell you, I know two separate individuals that played at the NFL level from the defensive tackle position who have told me in no uncertain terms that sometimes you get guys who do their own thing in pass rush situations and they don't play with the same disciplined, unselfish style that these guys for Seattle do. And that's why I'm so willing to praise pretty much all of them. Another opportunity to talk about Murphy in a pass rush role, but this time something that we can evaluate, in my opinion. Seattle at this point in the third quarter, when they're up 12-0, they of course forced real concessions by New England's offense. I don't understand how New England's offensive staff didn't recognize they were going to have to do this stuff anyway. It's a double chip. It's basically is what we've got. The tight end on our right side of the screen and the running back on our left are both going to help out the offensive tackles. In this case, it's Campbell, Will Campbell off the left side as the left tackle, and Morgan Moses as the right tackle off the right side. In addition, we do not have a layering of the four-man rush. This is just basically all four guys. This is very different from what I have tried to describe to you so far a couple of times. Basically, I think all four of these guys are being given an opportunity to try to win in their individual pass rush matchups. Now, Murphy's path is not really accurate here. He does get a sack. He bounces off of. It's an opportunity really to talk about how violent he is. He's almost like a wrecking ball at sometimes. He runs into his teammate in Nwosu, knocks him down, runs into Campbell a moment, but kind of dislodges him a little bit. And then as Drake May is looking for an opportunity to throw the football, Murphy is going to be able to clear off of the left guard with a little rip and then drive through and be able to reach out and finish off Drake May. Off the right-hand side, Boye Mafe is a part of it as well, got close to a sack. Byron Murphy just plays through contact well. He's extremely explosive and technical. He's got great power off the snap, but he plays through contact. He reminds me, again, to use a combat sports analogy, of a fighter who's got a great chin. Someone who can take a shot and just keep moving forward, because contact, he almost is a little bit impervious to contact sometimes. I'm talking about Byron Murphy, whether it's a guard, a tackle, or a running back, or a tight end. There's going to be a lot to talk about here on this particular snap. It's a play action pass, again, during that Week 6 win in Jacksonville. This is a 1st and 10, and you get a really great opportunity to talk about or watch Byron Murphy and all of the Seattle defensive line, their reaction to what looks like a run play. In addition, we'll be able to discuss something that came up in the NFC Championship game win over the Rams. And that's the frustration, anger, whatever you want to call it, by Sean McVay, talking about DeMarcus Lawrence covering running backs late out of the backfield. I have now found 3 different instances of DeMarcus Lawrence doing this same thing. No, I'm not saying that Lawrence was supposed to cover. I'm saying that he, DeMarcus Lawrence, has the awareness, the wherewithal during the play to do this sometimes when it's not planned. And in my opinion, that we get an opportunity to talk about it here. So in any case, the whole offensive line is going to work to their left, okay? And Byron Murphy's going to react to it. It's a response to a run play. He's very fundamental. He's very technical with what he does. Again, down and distance, this is a run, pass, down. It could be run. It could be pass. So in any case, there's DeMarcus Lawrence off the left-hand side reacting to the running back, releasing out late. And to my knowledge, Seattle doesn't utilize, under Mike Macdonald, a 3-man rush scheme very often, right? So I'm talking about the 2 D tackles. I think it's Reed and Murphy and Leonard Williams here, almost always in either a 4-man or a 5 or sometimes a 6-man rush. My point is, I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence is supposed to be doing this. It ends up a 3-man rush. Lawrence peels out, and then there's no edge pressure there because DeMarcus Lawrence has peeled out with the running back. So that's where Trevor Lawrence is going to escape once Byron Murphy, puts some pressure on him up the middle, and he's got great closing speed. The last play that I show you here in this video will kind of illustrate it as well. It'll be a screen against the 49ers. Sometimes when Murphy runs inside out, he kind of looks like an inside linebacker, a really burly and strong one, if you will, but he's a finisher. I think his response in 2025 to blocks was at the highest rate. I don't track those things, but what I mean is like that play that I just showed you where all of the offensive line is working to the left on the screen, Byron Murphy's reaction is appropriate. It is correct for the type of block that he saw in front of him. Let's do the tackle on the screen in the Week 1 loss to the 49ers. It's going to be against Christian McCaffrey. Byron Murphy's spot shadowed up there. It's a screen to the top side from motion. So you're going to get basically a wheel route by the guy who went in motion, number 1. And then number 2, the receiver, the split end, who's already up to the top side, he's going to basically go downfield and block. It's a really nicely designed play, in my opinion, from a San Francisco perspective. They're trying to clear people out to that side of the field, to the boundary, where Seattle plays, a whole lot of man. And Drake Thomas has an opportunity, I think, to make the tackle. So McCaffrey's screen's going to go underneath of the motion and the route. So it's going to the same side where the motion and the number 1 receiver are into the boundaries. Here's Murphy's reaction and how quickly he sees it, or how quickly he recognizes that the center isn't really trying to block him. Center's got his left hand up for a moment, outside frame, and then just no resistance at all. So easy job for Murphy as far as recognize it, if you ask me, and then gets his foot in the ground, and he'll be able to take off running. Now, from where he is right now, he travels about 13 yards, a little bit over 13 yards to make this tackle on McCaffrey. Like I said, I think Drake Thomas has a chance to make the tackle here. There's two linemen out in front of McCaffrey as he's catching it into the boundary. When I talked about the clear out, Job took over the receiver who went in motion and kind of ran like a pseudo wheel. Here's the number one receiver going up to block. I believe that's Julian Love. Imagine that Murphy doesn't pursue this, right? Here. It still ends up being a pretty good game. I think it's an 8-yard gain for the 49ers. But if he doesn't pursue this, if I could erase him from the I don't have that available in the graphics program. If he wasn't here, then you're talking about a 3-on-2 in this area of the field for McCaffrey to either slide between those two blockers or set it up, bring it back to the inside, or bounce it back into the boundary. Just an example of the type of range that he has. Like I said, I think it still ends up being a 7 or an 8-yard gain. Murphy gets after it in pass rush. He plays well against the run, which I'll show you here in a moment. But in addition to that, he's really good and got nice range on screens. The first run play that I have to show you here, to be direct, I think Pittsburgh misblocks this. I think their offensive line totally messes this up. It's a weird scheme in general. It's back to that week 2 win in Pittsburgh. In any case, the best aspect of his run defense is his ability to split or deal with double teams. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to show it in this video because I'm going to do a follow-up that is a standalone focusing on that technique only. He's really good at it. I think Murphy had 7 tackles for loss this season. So, tackles for loss, if you don't know, at the NFL level, they do not include sacks, okay? So a sack is not included in the tackle for loss column. There's a lot going on here from a Pittsburgh perspective. So they're trying to pull the tackle. They're trying to pull this tackle to pull and kick out the edge defender. And then Jaylen Warren is going to try to dig in and cut or seal off this backside defensive end or edge defender. It's DeMarcus Lawrence. The center and the right guard they don't have any idea what to do here with Byron Murphy. The center kind of goes as if he's going to jump through. The right guard is not scooping at all here. Basically, he's not trying to cut off Murphy. But Murphy knows when to get skinny. In this case, he gets skinny right here by turning his shoulders and then takes the contact. Again, we're talking about his ability to play through contact, finishes off a TFL. He had a great start to the season, if you ask me. Yes, it's a misblocked assignment from a Steelers offensive line perspective. I do think that the stats of a lot of these defensive linemen for Seattle were not pumped up, but they were improved upon from 2024 because they were so good at stopping the run, basically putting other opposing teams' offenses in more obvious passing situations, 2nd and 8 and 3rd and 6. Let's do 2 more run plays here, but in case anyone didn't know, you wouldn't be watching this long and not be aware of this, but Seattle was 3rd in the NFL in 2025 as far as run defense allowed, rushing yards allowed per game. I think it was 93. The season before, it was a little bit over 120. This one from the week 1 loss to the 49ers is not misblocked, but it's a really great example of talking about Byron Murphy's reactions. Not just that he has the proper or the correct reaction to the blocking scheme, but how quickly he gets those things done. So it's a run play away from him, and the center is trying to work to the 3 technique with the left guard, right? It's the classic 3 technique to the side of the tight end. It's really a BS formation by the 49ers, very Rams-esque, if you will. Go really compressed and act like you as a defense don't know that we're focusing on running the ball. It's impossible, in my opinion, for the right guard to deal with Byron Murphy on this play. If the center isn't going to help at all, if the center is going to immediately work to the 3 technique, Leonard Williams, to the front side. I'm not saying that other teams don't do this. I'm not saying that other people don't execute it. In my opinion, you're not going to be able to execute this consistently against a Byron Murphy who reads and reacts to blocks quickly, number 1. And number 2, you're not going to use an MMA analogy, be able to take down. I'm not saying that Dominic Pooney here is trying to tackle him or grab him or hold him, but this type of contact, in the center of his body, Byron Murphy has great core strength, incredibly strong lower body, his legs, his thighs, his knees, his ankles. His core is extremely strong, got a low center of gravity. He's going to play through that type of contact, if you ask me, 100% of the time. This is probably going to come across as a little unusual to some of you. This might be one of my favorite plays of Byron Murphy from all of 2025. It's a brilliant play, but he doesn't make the tackle. It's the awareness that he has and the ability and the willingness, I guess, to execute this. Some people are going to say this should be a penalty, and I recognize that, for the most part, that's probably a valid commentary. In any case, it's violent. It's very nasty. And like I said, everyone can't pull this off. So it's a downhill run concept by Jaylen Warren, okay? And Byron Murphy understands the assignment. So if you do draw a penalty here for defensive holding, you're probably okay with it. Look, watch how he grabs the center and really whips him almost away from the play. We're talking about Frazier here, who's a pretty good football player. And what that does is it allows the combo to not occur. Basically, there cannot be a combo from the left guard and the center that works up to Ernest Jones, who's at the second level of the defense. Jones ends up being clean, through the gap, makes the tackle on Jaylen Warren. Yes, I understand that that could be called, and in some cases it is called a hold on defensive lineman. I will be upfront with you. As a defensive guy, I am way more forgiving of defensive holding because I feel like offensive linemen get away with holding at an exponentially higher rate than defensive linemen, particularly defensive tackles, do. I think this play illustrates his awareness, his ability to execute the play within the context of a downhill run concept, and also how quick and explosive he is. I mean, it happens super fast here. He basically grabs Zach Frazier while getting his right side knee and foot dug into the ground, and he absorbs the blow from the left guard, throws Frazier out of the way, and allows Ernest Jones to be clean to make the tackle. I think that it's obvious that Byron Murphy had more production in 2025, right? You can just look at the stats and the numbers and know that. To what do I attribute that? I think his technique was pretty good in 2024. I do. I don't think he's a different player. I don't think that he was any more stronger necessarily. His recognition might be better. He might be faster, meaning he sees things sooner and reacts in a quicker manner, and maybe he can get on top of people better. That's important. I will say this. He ended up in attack mode more often. And that aspect of the Seahawks defense deserves some mention. They were spectacular in stopping the run for almost all of 2025. Like I said, third in the league. They got teams in obvious passing downs. And the defensive linemen, the pass rush guys, benefited from it, right? Murphy, Leonard Williams, Lawrence, Nwosu, Hall, Reed, Boye Mafe, who's since gone. They were all put in more advantageous attacking situations as pass rushers because they had earned the right to do so by stopping the run on first and second down. That's a real factor, in my opinion, compared to 2024. I'm not saying that is the only reason or even the biggest one in terms of the jump in his production from 24 to 25. I think the design of the pass rush scheme has to be discussed for anyone on Seattle's defense. It's an extremely versatile, very in-depth way of rushing the quarterback. I think it's somewhat repeatable. I do wonder if there's at least two versions of that layered four-man rush, maybe three. I'm going to try as best as I can in the next, hopefully, week or two to get that video out and give you some of my thoughts. Basically, how Mike McDonald, Aiden Durday, and like I said, I think Leslie Frazier has got to be given credit for some of the design here. Basically, the wide variety of looks and all the players on the field at the defensive line position who make all those things possible. The stunts, the inside rush pass, the power moves, all of those things are on the table, and Murphy's just a big part of it. He's exceptional as a run stopper, very precise and quick with his hand usage. I think his responses to when he's given a green light go, he's got explosive pass rush moves, in my opinion. I think he obviously had more impact in 25, but the total number of pass rush opportunities was increased. And then I think also executed with more clarity. I'm not trying to shift the focus or credit away from Byron Murphy. I just think the overall team defense perspective, the way those guys play, it's a team project. It's a group project. They work together. They're very professional about it while playing the game with insane effort and pursuit. Those things sometimes do not go hand in hand. I'm talking about a professional mindset with insane effort and pursuit. Sometimes you don't get that from the backside defensive end or the backside nickel DB. Byron Murphy, to me, is another guy on this defense that plays the game the right way. He executes a really wide range of techniques instantly with precision, passion, and that showed up in increased production. It's a great system in Seattle. I think if you've listened this long and you've probably checked out some of my content before about the Seahawks, you know the level of respect that I have now is probably higher than it was for what Mike Macdonald accomplished in 2023. And that's solely due to, I think I understand it more. I think I understand it now better 3 years later. Durday, Frazier, McDonald, they all deserve credit. These players fit in, and they all come with their own level of talent. Byron Murphy's was high already. He's a second-year defensive tackle, nose tackle, who would be productive anywhere because of his talent level. But he's got incredible dedication to his technique, in my opinion. Showed up this year with 7 sacks, 13 quarterback hits, I think 7 or maybe 8 TFLs, 62 overall tackles. This is who he's been at every level of football that he's ever played. Seattle drafted him in the first round, which is appropriate for the talent level. Is a brilliant pick. He's 23 years old. I think those numbers are, I don't want to say the floor for what we should expect from him every year, but it's in the range of the floor. If he were to come out in 2026 and go 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, 5 TFLs, and only 55 tackles, I'd be a little disappointed. I feel like the numbers that he put up this year is really who he is as a football player. He's someone I just expect to continue to be a force for Seattle in 26 and then beyond. You guys are more than welcome to let me know what you think of this film study video. Probably went on longer than maybe you expected when you first tuned in if you watched the live. But when I do a player film study in the offseason, I'm trying to take a serious look, and the only plays that I intentionally omitted here was his responses to double teams where he's going to a knee briefly and reducing his surface contact area. And ironically, that might be one of the things that he's better at than almost every defensive tackle in the NFL. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. And then finally, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this, hopefully serious and detailed film study look at Byron Murphy, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.